And we are live. Hello and welcome everyone to Sunday Night's Talks. I'm Joe. Here with me is my co-host, the Black Knight. How you doing?
Hello, hello. I'm well. Been
And
writing like crazy this week.
oh yeah, I've noticed. And yeah, because when we last spoke via Discord and whatnot, you had mentioned you were writing like crazy. You're getting caught up again.
Yeah, I'm in the zone.
Yeah, sorry, just someone who's just geeking out about how awesome Tolkien's mom was. Oh man, there was a lady that was just uh that's that's the dream waifu, someone like her, Edith Tolkien. But anyways, um but enough about English. uh, we're gonna be discussing today something that I have noticed, that I talked with a friend on, and we kind of ended up, well, both we're in agreement. There's a whole lot of are evil races necessary in fantasy fiction? And I wrote an article and I referenced Jack the Lost Lore Scholar, who's going to be a real pal of mine. A really nice Englishman. He's in the whole TTRPG thing and he's trying to avoid politics. Well, like I was trying to do on Substack, but somehow I tripped on a landmine. Somehow, when I was just gushing about Endeavor and an article, sucked into text, it seems, by weirdos. But um, here I'll say is, um, now I do want to, in science fiction and fantasy, do you think, now I've seen debated before, but do you think that the alternate races, you know what I mean, like the elves, the alien races, the dwarves,
Ah,
all
yes.
that, do you think they're necessary, like just having alternate races, do you think they're necessary in sci-fi and fantasy?
Oh yes, yes. They are quite
Like,
necessary.
is it really the same? Like, is it the same without them or with them? Like, even people use Conan as an example of a pure human mythos, but it's not actually pure human because you have snake men,
Yeah, it has
you've got
Snake Man.
frog
Uh,
men,
yeah.
you've
Gorillas, the Gorilla
so
Man. Hello. Can you hear me? I can hear a lot of noise from your side. Hello. Ah, okay. Yeah. It's from your side. I don't know what it is, but it's I can't hear anything else but noise. Your microphone may have died. Yes, it's definitely from your side. Would you try and change the microphone or something?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. There is no.
All right.
Uh,
All right. I just simply had to raise the volume a little. So my question is, do you think that fantasy and alien races are necessary in the genre? Like, because a lot of people argue you don't need them and you shouldn't use them and whatnot. They're passe. We don't want them anymore. What are your
that's
thoughts on these arguments?
well, that's pretty much bullshit. We need them.
Yeah, it is bullshit.
We definitely need them, and we definitely should use them even more. Because for a variety of reasons, quite
Okay.
many. It's first you especially in the fantasy settings and the science fiction settings, they're indispensable because they provide you with all of these cultural and societal foils, so to speak, that you can mirror some of the real life everyday realities of things, and even explore the past of humanity, and probably maybe do some predictions about the future, but without them, without these different races, these different fantasy and science fiction races, you will be severely hampered in your attempts to do so. And you will, of course, lessen your character, plot, and other options, creative options within your universe. You could technically use a template of humans, which are pretty much the same, or they have like some minor regional cultural differences. But why do that? Why do just that? As I mentioned earlier, you're just limiting your options, and when you limit your options during this stage of conception of the conception of your universe, or whatever it is, even if it's just even if you're not exploring an entire galaxy, or in the fantasy setting, a myriad of dimensions, of alternate dimensions, or let's say not alternate dimensions, but different planes with access to different magical races and different kinds of magic and different cultures, and everything that comes with all of this. You're not just shooting yourself in the foot, you're shooting yourself in both feet, and then you're chopping them, and then you're burning them. And perhaps the individuals who so keen on removing all of these fantasy and science sci-fi races, they wanted to do so for the sake of imposing their particular sets of beliefs, and otherwise wielding their beloved club of censorship. Because if you remove all of these races, your options to, let's say, write satire of certain things, or explore the consequences of certain actions taken by different individuals and groups and organizations in our world, it would be quite hard, so to say. So yes, that's pretty much the basic stance of mine.
Yeah,
We
'cause
could explore it further and talk about the, let's say, the inherently good races and the inherently evil races, which it's
Mhm.
it's part of the same topic, and perhaps why a lot of these specific individuals want to dispense with the fantasy races altogether for the sake of combating racismus, maybe. Which, coincidentally, uh, it's them. You know, they are projecting their own racismus.
Yeah,
No
because the
one
thing
looks.
is,
No one looks at, like, let's say, no one looks at Tolkien's orcs and says, "Ooh, ooh, the orcs, they are um, a representation of black people."
no,
No one.
because
That's just them. Just
they were
the persons who are
they were supposed
whining about it. That's they have that issue.
they were supposed to be evil race, like under Tolkien, and then somehow um, we ended up with, because I will actually argue the Warcraft trilogy really reshaped,
Yeah,
along with all
but
its novels,
In Warcraft, they are not
evil.
actual orcs. No, they are not actual orcs. They are different. They're a different species. They are
Hmm.
more like um, what was that specific word? They're not they're not a goblinoid race. They're more like a combination of orcoid and troll race. That's a different breed of orcs. Quite different. I don't know. People might disagree, but that's what I think.
I look at it as, well, you could look at it either way. And the thing is that um, I think that if anything, the the orcs, like I view it as, you can write them as all evil, no objections. So you could even do it really well. I'll support your mythos if I like it. Um, and if you're like, well, I want to write with more Warcraft orcs, you know what I mean? Like the more nuanced. I shouldn't use that
Yeah,
term, but
the
but like
you
the
know
Warcraft
I
approach.
yeah, you know, I
Like
think
when I say
I showed you
Warcraft,
mine. I showed you
yeah,
mine. They are not actually Earth orcs. They are part of the one of the races from the Asgardian realm, and they are not even spelled with a C. They are spelled with a K. They are quite different. They began as sort of a creation, like a flesh golem undead creation, but they've evolved to serve their masters. Another evil race, the Dark Elves, who are also supposed to be removed from fiction and fantasy.
and the thing is that the I just think you can go either way, but like I prefer the orcs to be like what they were in Warcraft 2. You know what I mean? If you're gonna make them, I don't want to say good, but like make them like full on barbarians, you know, like Conan's, and where they revel in battle and conquest and whatnot. Well, that's bad. Well, okay, then they're bad. But oh well, I like that. Okay, then you like that. Like, let's just go all in. Just enjoy. Just do what you want, and but just do it well. You know what I mean? Like, I really like Doomhammer from Warcraft 2.
Don't make them. Please don't.
Sissies.
For the love of God, don't make them Mexican.
No, no, no.
Just like Wizards of the Coast did, they made them Mexican, which is, what? Come on.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think that what's so unique about Warcraft 2 when I first came into contact with that portrayal of orcs was that, you had a Germano-Celtic type of people who are conquering, sure, but like Doomhammer's just kicking ass and taking names, and he's unapologetic about it. He doesn't care what his enemies think or want. He's there to conquer, and it's one of those things where it was very fascinating to see that. So like my Golgarathia is modeled with that mentality. The orcs, or ogres, as I like to call them, are coming in as all conquering, and they're unapologetic for the most part. And I don't know if I've managed to portray what it's like for the possessed ogres and the unpossessed, but like the idea is those which are tainted, once they realize how far they've gone, some of them are horrified, others are like, whatever. And my goal is to show, this race is having been really bad at the start. Then they've started to change, and finally they're kind of forced inadvertently into, like fighting for a different side in terms of light and darkness. You know what I mean? So it's just, like I said, I'm influenced by Warcraft 2, so my arcs kind of resemble that. And you can see the fingerprints all over them. Markle from my Swift Shadow Murders novel, or novelette, my romantic fantasy story, Markov in there has so much of the Warcraft 2 orcs just infused into his DNA. And that's a jousting romantic novel. And I don't understand why, well, okay, I should word it as, for me, I don't want them to be the evil race. I decided to go with a different race to be my all evil race. Snake Men, Kolubar, which I believe you've read a little bit of Darkspire and Gemstone. They're my...
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Catherine Elaine, huge shout out to her, follow more Baltic mythology and have them be good. Or maybe not good, but like nuanced and like more complicated than that. And she can do that. That's where I've remodeled my Commodians, or Kobolds, to be a lizard reptilian people who are a nod to, her a little. And I hope to actually come out with a chapter at some point with them in it, just so I could tag her and say, here, Catherine, dedicated to you. Because I'm quite fond of her. And I think
by the
that...
way, do you know if Catherine read that excerpt that I posted about the yarn?
No, I don't know.
No. I have to ask her.
You should. And the thing is, I think that I think that the thing with evil races is that sadly they've gone out of style to an extent. And
Or
I think that,
or so the ideologues want us to believe.
yeah, well, here's the thing. We've been so long without the races. You know what I mean? And while I love the Warcraft orcs, I think that the negative impact here has been that people haven't come up with new evil races or gone to other original evil races. Like what I mean is, the Drow were supposed to take up this role, but the problem is Drizzt came out, and after that, every Drow or Dark Elf has to be good. Um, so that's no longer the option,
But they're
the go-to
not
option.
like the Drist was the exception.
He was supposed to be, yeah. In a lot of the novels, he is, and it's just I've noticed a lot of fans took it in the wrong direction, and there are authors who've taken it in the wrong direction. And for example, I was going to say, Draconians were the evil race for a time along with ogres in Dragonlance. Ogres are still evil in Dragonlance. Same with Minotaurs. They didn't redeem either of them. Draconians, way, like, you know what I mean? They made it more complicated and nuanced. And that's fine. They had their one nuanced race and they had their two evil races, which I'm of the opinion, it's fine. Like, that's how you should do it. Now, I know people will say, well, Kaz was good. Yes, he was. But after Kaz, the Minotaurs often side with evil. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where they tackle it very maturely. And I think that this is kind of the way to do things. And yet, I think that with the evil races, we should be, how do I put it? We should be
exploring their point of view.
Well, I was going to say, like, for example, well, I don't know, but I think that they should be used to make a philosophical argument, for example, but that we should also have, like, for example, you have your, like I said, the Snake Men from Robert E. Howard. That race has remained untapped for almost 100 years. Since, because they only appear a few times in the Hyborian Age, and they appear quite a bit in the Thurian Age. You also have the Eight Men, who appear as monsters of sorts in the Thurian and Hyborian Ages. These two races can be used. People.
Yes.
They can be used as the evil races. So, for example, I have expounded on the argument, maybe orcs aren't the right choice anymore, considering Warcraft, and most people are now looking at the orcs as, well, they think of, Warcraft, and they're like, well, I don't know about this one. Well, then fine. If you're going to have your good orcs, I'm going to make the argument, why not have other races be the evil races? You have goblins, you have dark elves, you have snake men. Use these races.
You also have hobgoblins, you have bugbears,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty
of choices. Even just like the goblinoid quote unquote family of races, you can just pick one, just pick one and go with it. I mean, they're not they are perhaps as close to the Tolkienian orcs action wise and it's like their way of doing things in the sense that yes the goblinoid races would clearly commit horrendous acts because they just don't care. To them it's like, well, what are the morals of killing my fellow goblin named Poe, let's say, and eat and feasting on his warm entrails? We don't care. We just don't care. Or let's say go to the village and take like eat all the babies, for example. They don't give a flying fuck. But and they're like grossly underused. Even as a DM, I can tell you that goblins are only used as far as to introduce the characters, the player characters, to certain combat mechanics during the very beginning of a campaign, and then they are forgotten, completely forgotten. It's a crime. It's like they are criminally underused, and that's just them. Then you have the Gnolls and the bugbears and the hobgoblins and like everyone else. It's, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
And
yes, you are
like,
quite correct.
but we also need, I think, good races. There is a need for
What would
for
you say about
heroic.
my good races? The good races in Star Shelter. I know you have a favorite one.
I forgot the name for it, but the feline race that I'm playing as in the campaign.
Oh yeah, the Kiora.
Yeah,
they're
they're probably my favorite.
Yes.
Just because, well, the thing is, it's just fun playing as a feline, who's a great big badass. So I'm growing quite fond of that race. And as I see it, I just think that it's probably one of the more interesting races out there. Because like I'm having to read a bit of the history here and there when we play, and having to operate with it, and you know, I just think, yeah, like I said, it might be my favorite. And I just yeah, it's probably the coolest race to me so far in Star Shatter. But it's also because I think that I see shades of the Solamnic Knights in it from Dragonlance, and I'm very fond of the Solamnic Knights, as you well know. So maybe that I'm just seeing kind of shades of the Solamnics, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is the sort of thing I like. But yeah,
Great many people like the hamsters, the uplifted hamsters.
the hamsters are hilarious. I like them.
They're
They're hilarious.
there's they have this belief that their uplifters, their patron race, the humans, they did something magical when they uplifted them, so that the hamsters could then achieve some grand goal and be, how should I say, be a more complete in tune with the universe's consciousness, meaning God race. And so as soon as they were able to, they formed bigger society, which society is the hamsters' answer to the various baddie threats, and they do call them baddies, mockingly. So quite mockingly, of course they know the names of the enemies of humanity and humanity's allies, but they call them baddies because they can and they will. And so they do kind of play sort of a tower defense, and they view all of these different attacks as like waves, waves of baddies which they need to be stopped. It's part of their great hamster burden, the hamster species. And they would do pretty much everything possible, bar like dishonorable conduct and like using others as shields to achieve victory, um, just so they could stop the next wave of baddies. And as you know, they have every hamster is considered uh, a warrior in this eternal war against the baddies, and that's why they count. Every time they kill a baddie, they count, and they send their data back to Earth, to their elders, and the elders compile the data, send it to the statisticians of the Digger Society, and they have accurate data, up to date data, how many were stopped by every hamster everywhere, pretty much. And more I will not say, but this is, I mean, if you remember the other races, they have exist, especially the evil races, they have developed existential dread from the hamsters. They call them the tiny feet of doom. And yeah, hamsters, they think, especially the evil races, they assume that the hamsters are genetically forged to wage warfare, which they most certainly are not. But they assume that because it's what they would have done, and they do. When they find some primitive species, they would further uplift it and forged it into like some slave species, which coincidentally is what the orcs, my orcs of the Starshipper realm are. They're not, they're newest race. They are neither turbo evil, neither turbo good. They're just stuck where they were placed, and they have to obey, wage eternal warfare against the enemies of Dark Elves. They're just there, their bodies to die instead of the Dark Elves. Yeah. And you would imagine what would happen when Hamster meets with these orcs, or let's say Kira. Not just any Kira, but a morale officer. They're a morale officer. And that's what happens actually in the 8th book of the Star Shattered series, talking about good races. Where Asgard is under attack by the Dark Elves and forces of pretty much the forces of Loki, and it's been infiltrated by those who bend the knee before Loki and swallow his lies. And he would use a certain ideology which he made sure to study from Earth, from 20th century Earth. He studied it well, implemented it in Asgard. So that is how he was able to have Leaper Cell's 5th column in the heart of Asgard itself. Sorry for the rant.
No, it's okay. Don't apologize. I must admit that uh, when it comes to the races, I try to just like you make them a little balanced. I have yet to, um, like the look at I okay. There's the elves. Which elves? You know what I mean? Like I've got the high elves, I've got the wilder elves, I've got the iron elves. The iron elves are basically the Noldor, and they're passionate, they're hotheads with hot tempers and whatnot. The high elves are Oster and um, ironically probably more modeled after the dwarf elves in some ways from the Silmarillion, or um, like how or like the Qualinesti to an extent from Dragonlance. The Wilder elves are usually modeled after Thranduil and his kingdom, and to an extent, yes, the law of Thingol and his Doriath kingdom. But like, I don't want them to just be good or just be evil. Well, I've written enough about elves and how they're portrayed, um, and um, and I think that like I've got quite a few evil races. Also, have some races like um, even the pretty much the good race. I often try to supply backstory and whatnot. There, there's been sins in the past, or there's like they've cocked it up, and there has to also be flaws to the lead characters, like um, in Gem when I introduce the hero Bardolph, the Wolfram. He explains that in the ancient like the reason the Wolframs aren't liked on Bretwalda, the Lairdly Isle, is that in the ancient past, the Wolframs ruled over mankind and were ruled with an iron fist and weren't very kind. They're tyrannized over men because the crown of Bretwalda was supposed to pass from, one generation was supposed to be a man, then an elf, then a Wolfram. But then when it came time to be the Wolfram's turns, they decided to keep it for themselves until Greogair, the martyred king, was killed for his ancestors' sins, and then the crown stayed with the race of men. So, like the Wolfram screwed it up, and the thing is, ever since then, they've basically been on the receiving end of the rod for 20 some hundred years to 3,000 years. So, this kind of created a kind of almost pathological division between men and wolves, or the Wolframs, I should say. And the solution in the Gemstone series is, well, there will be a solution proposed, and there will be peace made between men and Wolframs. So, like, I created this divide, and I, healed the breach. But the thing is, there's also been times in the past, in the lore, when men and the Wolframs did band together because, you have, let's say, the Dark Elves invading, you have the Mazku invading, you've got the Unliving, or Undead if you prefer, who invaded. So, like, though they don't like each other, there's that tension. They're willing to work together and acknowledge each other and live with each other where they aren't able to with the forces of evil. So, that's where it's something which I just find, you kind of need to approach with nuance. But I've got a semi-anti-heroic character plan for Akamaronan, who will be a Wolfram. He's going to appear later in the novel, but he's essentially a hired killer who is going to be trying to hunt Satomine at one point. Why? Well, why not? Because it's cash. But the thing is,
Yeah, the
he
coin. The coin.
yeah. But see, he starts off a villain, but he's going to be well. He'll have to. He might end up getting a redemption arc. But I definitively want there to be a few, villains here and there that come after Satomine. Why? I want there to be more nuance and more complexity to the whole issue. The thing with the Akuma no Ra novel is that there is no evil race that appears in the novel. I could toy with goblins, but I don't really want to. I could toy with snake men. I don't really want to for this novel. So it's going to be mostly non-evil races and whatnot. I'm trying to take a more Hour of the Dragon approach, where you know what I mean, like where it's more you have evil people, but I'm trying to avoid the evil race just for one novel, just for fun. But my idea is to probably revert to it in a later story that centered around Zapongu. So like it has its purpose narratively, but every once in a while you should or could shake it up. And that's just kind of my mentality with this one.
Yeah, it's if you had read some of the novellas that novelettes I posted on Substack, especially they which consider the Tzarans, who are perhaps one of my most enjoyed. I won't say beloved, but I would say enjoyed villain races. They are clearly villains, but they are nuanced villains. Um, they have their so to speak less villainous personas, characters. Why? Well, because it, especially for the Tzarans, or how they are called by others, the sheepbloods, or holes for ears, because they have ear holes, they don't have ears like most races, and they have a unibrow. But even though they're a bit like their skin is greenish, they're not orcs. No, they're not the orcs of Star Shattered. No. But they have their I won't say that they have their like super positive qualities, like the really really positive qualities. They just have certain they have boundaries. For example, they would never sell their souls to any of the entities, which many of them prey upon everyone who is willing to offer their soul for power or something else. The Tzarans would not do that. They will not do that. They will never do it. Even the dumbest Tzaran will not do it. They would rather die. It's yeah. They have other qualities. To a certain extent, they have
Hello,
more
Substack.
sense of honor, which if you know how to, like, if you know about the race, you can and their culture, you could use that to your advantage to a certain extent. But yes, they are clearly they are evil, but they're nuanced evil, and that's why my readers love them, like them, enjoy them.
Okay. Yeah, like See, we just ended up discussing works with this and whatnot. This like that's the thing. Like, I'll even argue, like this that just because you have these different fantasy races doesn't preclude you from like having Asians, Africans, whatever, in or natives, whatever, in your stories. Because like, and uses black pirates really effectively. Uses because like you've got like Kataians in Hour of the Dragon, but I will also make the argument. But if you only want it to be like Middle Earth, where it's primarily, you know what I mean, in Anglo-Germanic, go for it. Do what you have to for your world. Like, you prioritize what's best for your world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as long as it doesn't become propaganda or, in the case of fantasy, limited, because like,
to a certain extent, if you want to use propaganda, you should use the propaganda, but you should use it in world propaganda. You should use the in world propaganda, like let's say
Starship Troopers.
Yeah, or let's say in my case, I have one of the enemies of the Zaran Imperium. It's called the Taxian Directorate, which they're not an evil species per se. They just have a demented authoritarian government, which did not start as such, but they gradually became populated with psychopaths, and eventually ended up super authoritarian. So they have this war which they've been fighting for a long time. I think like over close to 2 centuries, probably. And it's almost like the unending trench warfare of World War One, which they cannot, like they're almost pretty evenly matched, and they just end up whichever side attempts to commit to a push, they end up taking like a few star systems and wasting a few billion troops and a few thousand ships, and that's it. And the next star year, it reverts, like the lines revert back to what they were. So you can use the propaganda of both sides, and see how it ends up clashing, because the different even though it's propaganda, it's designed for idiots. Propaganda is pretty much designed to keep the idiots.
It's also designed to demoralize.
Yeah, and also designed to demoralize the normal people. But mainly the propaganda is used to keep the idiots comply and laser focused at the goals of the ruling elite. And so you have the Zaran propaganda, which pretty much they do say certain truths, that, let's say, the Taxian Directorate, their government does not care about their people, that they are pretty much throwing them to die in some instances, just the abandoning them to their doom, that they have abhorrent living conditions in many cases, etc. But the Taxian Directorate also, they have like they also strike a nerve by saying that, oh yes, your lofty nobles, they don't care about you. They even like buy and sell soldiers as items. They don't give a damn. So it's like, yes, please do use propaganda, use it, but use it in world, in universe.
So this is okay. You just opened up a fascinating can of worms. So if I was to like, in my, you know how I've been used, what I used as source was the bardic poems, or like in Crown of Blood, the bard poems that the bards sing is the propaganda, so to speak. Same with my French novels. That's how it works. Which to an extent, but these are actual folk songs in some cases and whatnot. But this is where this is the medieval propaganda, so to speak. And it's just, you got me thinking about that and how different it was centuries ago. And I don't know. I just thought that warrants a mention, and that you just raised a very fascinating point about in-universe propaganda.
It's been
And
my one of my things for the Star Chatter rooms that I began with it. I just started with it from the intro book, which I just like use the little tidbits here and there because it's the intro book and it's supposed to introduce all the characters, the main characters. But yes, I did start with the in-universe propaganda from the intro book. It's been great.
I imagine in Star Shatter, the propaganda must be very, very much extremely advanced. And
Yes.
whereas I'm using a medieval setting of sorts, people are, it's so much advanced and sophisticated, and so characters kind of, but I have a point at one point in Gemstone where Wolfnoth says Dwib was a good king. That's what I've heard. And you have like the 5 teenage characters just telling him, no, he wasn't. He wasn't. Nonsense. That's bullshit. Here's the real record of him. And just Wolfnoth just got his information from a monastery that was a beneficiary of endowment, or that sort of thing. And then, he starts realizing, oh, yeah, I made a mistake there. Let's see, or something like that. And generally, this is how, like, the medieval propaganda was not as sophisticated. And so you can tell when they fudge the truth, and you can tell when, and this is what's so fascinating to me. But Star Shatter, it's much more advanced and sophisticated than even today's.
Yeah, they have to use like even subliminal telepathic messages in some of the videos, the whole
like in Futurama.
Yeah, and then you have these like speech pattern specialists, which basically they are the ones who train the propagandists who are doing the speeches, who are like performing the speeches, the propaganda speeches, and the news anchors. They are training them to use specific timbre of their voice, intonation, and how they say certain words. So they use every tiny little bit to make their propaganda the best there is, because it's when you have access to the GNet and you have billions upon billions upon billions of subjects or citizens, one single propaganda video, one single whole of it, or a speech or something, or a news, like the daily news, it's of enormous importance. Enormous. In the case of, let's say, the humans, they have their own propaganda, but it's based is firmly based in truth, because they know that pretty much they don't have idiots anymore, and their people are way too smart and way too like freedom loving and individualistic for them to be, oh yes, I'm going to lie to you and try to manipulate you. And the second they even attempt to do that, like the people were like, oh no, you didn't actually try to pull this. No, it's basically the lies that other governments, other, let's say, star kingdoms, and because in the not just the Tazaran Imperium, but they have other enemies, and even the pirate clans, they have their own propaganda, which is mostly designed to demoralize and intimidate, so that their intended victims do not fight, which was actually the real thing with our piracy back in the day. If you remember of course you do, but you know that the pirates were they were spreading such rumors, and everything was designed in such a way so that when you saw the black flag raised, in 90% of the cases, like the ships and the crews, they did not resist, they just folded. That was the design behind this propaganda. So the pirate clans in Star Shredder, they do it pretty much the same. And the narco cartels, they also have their own propaganda, which is designed to affect as many naive and foolish people as possible, and basically convince them that yes, if you take our drugs, our space drugs, you will experience pleasure beyond imagining. And of course, like, yeah, of course there might be some side effects. Yeah, you might feel dizzy, and like, yeah, something minor, like no problem, just take them, just try, you'll see how good it is, and then you try, and then you try again and again, and you're fine. So yeah, it's and the Terrans, they take all of this enemy propaganda and they rip it apart, and they build their own anti-propaganda against it, and they supply other species, like neutral species, with this propaganda, so they could actually see who is telling the truth. At a certain point, you can use this in diplomacy, in diplomatic efforts, to join other like minor civilizations to the Hero Alliance, basically, because that's what the humans are trying to do. So yeah, that's the power of positive and the power of negative propaganda. And it's quite good when you're using it. And in some cases, as you mentioned earlier, that propaganda has to be in your face, blatant, like pretty much naked propaganda slapping you in your face, because that's how some, like, all of these in-universe forces are using it. That's why it exists, to be used in this way.
Okay. Well, I need to go, so I think this is a place to end it, and I will actually admit that this was such a good episode. I think I will have to make sure I remember to download this episode so I could submit it to Substack.
Yeah,
because
you could.
you just
By the way, I don't know if you can cut that like the first 2 minutes or like the from the second minute, was it? There was
I
like
could
a
do that. I can do that.
yeah, where there was like this noise.
I'll do it.
Yeah, probably.
I'll do so.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah. So I'll encourage everyone, no matter where they're watching this, to check out Black Knight's Substack. He's brilliant and fun. I gotta remember to get back to reading The Lord of Bones because
Oh yeah, yeah.
But the thing is, this week I'm all around Ontario and whatnot because I got to run errands all around the province. And I also have to catch up on some homework because I've fallen behind in a few classes. So I got to catch up before it's October because, my semester of work starts in October. Thankfully, it gives me an extra month to write some more. Akaran, I'm partway through about 3 chapters now. I'm writing 3 chapters at a time with it.
Nice.
So much catching up is being done. So until next time, everyone, take care. Check out Black Knight's Substack.
And don't forget to subscribe to the Brother Screen Substack.
Thank you. And until next time, take care.